My mother-in-law went on a rant when she heard we were adopting. She said she couldn't bear the idea of Nancy's biological child being her first grandchild. She even suggested divorcing my husband and then adopting, or sending the child to foster care. But I'm Nancy, and I won't abandon my brother-in-law's child just to please her. So fine. I'll do what she wants. I'm 45 years old and recently moved to the countryside, where I used to live as a child. With remote work being so common now, I can live wherever I want. My allergies were awful in the city, but they've calmed down here with the cleaner air. Country life might not be for everyone, but it suits me just fine. Sure, the nearest supermarket is far and the houses are spread out, but I love the open space. I used to think city life was a pain when I was in my late 20s. Back then, I had just married Ken, and we were really close. But there was a big problem. Ken's mom was way too attached to him. It makes sense, since he's her only child. She'd call his work just to talk to him, and she'd hassle his girlfriends like crazy. She did a lot of weird stuff out of love for her son. Ken was really bothered by her when we were dating. He kept me a secret from her to protect me from what he called the evil queen. He was worried she'd treat me like she treated his exes. But once we got married, I couldn't stay hidden. Ken finally told her about me, and her reaction was intense. I heard her on the phone saying, "Let me meet her. If she's no good, I'll put her in her place." She must have felt shocked. She thought her son was all hers, and then suddenly there's a new woman he wants to marry. Why did I marry a man with such a mother? Simple. I loved him. That was the only reason. When I was sick, he'd take care of me, making me porridge and shedding tears at sappy movies. He'd even help lost kids find their parents, even if it meant being late for our plans. He might not always seem competent, but deep down, he's really kind. That's what I adore about him, and why I wanted to be with him. So no matter how difficult his mother might be, I was ready to face her. Loving couples overcome obstacles, and in the end, they live happily ever after. That's the classic tale. But don't worry. When I met her for the wedding, she immediately threw a vase at me, shouting, "You thief cat." Can you believe people actually say thief cat? I was prepared, but her attack caught me off guard. A woman who never acknowledged me during our dating days didn't seem fit to judge. My son deserves someone better. I won't accept an orphan as my daughter-in-law, she went on. Yes, it's true. I don't have parents. My dad passed when I was in high school and my mom died when I was 20. I don't come from any special background, and by the time you hit your 40s or 50s, most people have lost their parents. Using that as a reason to disapprove of our marriage was just wrong. Luckily, my father-in-law stood up to her. You can't judge someone's character just based on their past. It's rude. Ken is old enough to make his own decisions. Just let him marry, he argued. But my mother-in-law isn't one to easily listen to her husband. In the end, she never officially accepted our marriage, so we secretly tied the knot on her father-in-law's advice. Even if we waited forever, she'd never give her blessing. I wanted to be with my husband in this life and the next. But that didn't mean I'd give up on our marriage in this life. I was ready to live as a married couple without ever telling my mother-in-law. A few months after we got married, we unexpectedly ran into her while shopping. Both of us proudly wore our engagement and wedding rings on our left hands. We were completely wrapped up in our newly bliss, happily strolling hand in hand while shopping, much to my mother-in-law's annoyance. She instantly caught sight of our rings and erupted into a tirade right there in the middle of the supermarket, oblivious to the curious glances from other shoppers. It turned out she'd been told by my father-in-law that we had called off our marriage and broken up. Neither my husband nor I knew about this story. Apparently, my father-in-law had shared it on his own. Feeling betrayed by both her husband and her son, my mother-in-law was livid. While I understood my father-in-law's intention to protect us, I couldn't help but regret not coordinating our story better to avoid such an easily uncovered lie. It must have hurt her deeply to be deceived in such a way. Her grip on my husband tightened, and despite his attempts to distance himself, she refused to let go. She began showing up at our doorstep daily, and eventually she moved in without so much as returning to her own home. Why did we allow her entry, you wonder? Well, each day she'd ring the doorbell, shouting through the thin walls, "Let me in. Are you planning to leave me out in the cold?" We had no choice but to let her in, at least temporarily. We attempted to remove her from our home several times, but she would always go to the police, claiming, "My son and his wife kicked me out." Feeling sympathetic toward the authorities, I decided to handle this family matter privately, although I had no clue how to deal with it. Despite numerous arguments and my husband's repeated demands for her to leave, she stubbornly refused. In fact, she seemed to relish the idea of being disliked. If she could wear us down and make us give up, it would be a victory for her, so she put all her energy into it. Her harassment toward me escalated. She would throw away my things without asking and ruin my cooking by pouring vinegar into it, making it inedible. These were just the beginning. What shocked me most was the garbage she left out. I discovered bags marked with "stupid" at the collection site. When I turned them around, I found "Nancy Thief Cat" written on the other side, forcing me to flip them again. At first, my father-in-law would visit daily, hoping to take her home, but eventually he stopped coming. My husband, too, became too busy and exhausted from arguing with his mother. Instead of insisting she leave, he started ignoring her. He even told me, "Don't bother cooking for my mom. Pretend she's not here." It was disheartening to see my kind husband pushed to this point, a testament to my mother-in-law's tenacity. Initially hurt by her son's neglect, she seemed determined to drive us apart. She shamelessly continued living in our home. Then one day we received devastating news. My brother and his wife had tragically died in a car accident while out with their family. Losing my supportive brother and kind sister-in-law was incredibly painful. But I couldn't afford to just wallow in grief. They left behind a 5-year-old son, Kyle. At the funeral and wake, relatives were passing around responsibility, asking, who will take care of him? Nancy would be the best option. But what if Nancy refuses? Despite feeling somewhat distant from these relatives, their callousness was unsettling. I had always cherished Kyle as my first nephew and felt a strong bond with him, wanting to care for him if possible. But I worried about the impact on him of losing his parents and then being taken in by his aunt and uncle. Most importantly, I feared my husband's reaction. However, before I could even broach the subject, my husband said, "If Kyle doesn't mind, let's take him in ourselves." Kyle expressed his desire to live with us, so I decided to formally adopt him as my son. What about this child? On the day I brought Kyle home, my mother-in-law stared at him expressionlessly. My husband stayed silent, so I spoke up. "He's my nephew. We're going to raise him as our son." With the knowledge of my brother and his wife's passing, my mother-in-law seemed to grasp the situation from just that one sentence. "You're bringing in that child?" she questioned. "Yes, we're moving forward with the adoption process." Adoption, can you believe it? That child is Nancy's blood relative. I can't bear the thought of such a child becoming my first grandchild. Get a divorce and then adopt him, or better yet, send him to a foster home. Suddenly, my mother-in-law erupted in anger, leaving poor Kyle bewildered by her outburst. "Why do we need your approval to care for this child? Please don't meddle in our marriage." "Absolutely not. That child will become my first grandchild, right? A child who doesn't share a drop of Ken's blood. I will never accept that," she declared, hurling the remote control at us. In an instant, my husband rushed to shield Kyle from the impact. "Kyle will simply be our adopted son, and nothing changes between him and you," I reassured her, but it felt like speaking to someone who refused to listen. "She's not against Kyle being adopted. She just can't stand the fact that we're still married," my husband muttered, his tone filled with frustration. "Well, if that's what she wants," my husband and I nearly said simultaneously that day, understanding that staying in that house wouldn't be good for Kyle. We decided to leave and move to a hotel. It's frustrating to have to leave our own home, but it's for Kyle's well-being. We see it as a temporary inconvenience until we can finally find a way to remove my mother-in-law from our lives for good. A week later, my husband and I finally returned home. It seemed even my stubborn mother-in-law was concerned, as we hadn't been back for a while. There was a moment of relief on her face when she saw us, followed by a smile. It seemed she was pleased that Kyle wasn't with us. "You've given up on the adoption," she said cheerfully. Neither my husband nor I replied as we quietly made our way to the living room. "You two went ahead with a marriage against my wishes, and now an adoption. That's just absurd. But at least you've come to your senses," she muttered to herself. My husband sat silently, taking several pamphlets out of his bag and laying them out in front of her. Choose any place you like, he said. She was taken aback by the pamphlets and my husband's words. What's this? What do you mean? You told us to choose between divorce or a facility, correct? Well, we've chosen a facility for you, my husband and I said with sly smiles, causing her expression to stiffen. She looked at my husband in panic, but he responded coldly. Do you think we're joking? I'm dead serious. I'm only in my 60s. I can't go to a facility. And remember how you hid my belongings, despite me telling you not to. I added. She didn't know how to respond to my accusation. That was just a mistake. It's a sign of dementia, she stuttered. Also, you always make a mess of the room after I've tidied it up, my husband chimed in. Her expression tightened. I'm getting older, so that's not acceptable. It could be an early sign of dementia, losing the ability to tidy up or starting to collect junk. And Mom, you've been hoarding items from that pop star. Those are just useless junk, right? I remarked. Well, that's another sign of progressing dementia, my husband chimed in. As we confronted her, she burst out, What's gotten into you two? You gave us the choice between divorce or a facility, so we chose the facility. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. Looks like you're here, my husband said casually. I nodded and hurried to the door, where my father-in-law stood waiting. Sorry for the delay, he apologized. Observing the scene, my mother-in-law looked bewildered and asked, Why is he here? With a mischievous grin, my husband quipped, Since it was either divorce or a facility, let's go with divorce. Caught off guard by my father-in-law's sudden mention of divorce, she was left speechless. Nobody specified whose divorce or whose stay in the facility. We decided it's your divorce and your move to the facility. Why do I always end up being the scapegoat? She muttered as my father-in-law began to argue, insisting that she wasn't at fault. My dear, it seems you've abandoned everything, including our home, and caused nothing but trouble for our son, my father-in-law scolded. I've repeatedly told you to come back home, stop bothering our son, and take care of the house. What are you saying, acting like some old-fashioned dictator? Take care of the house yourself, she snapped. Of course I am, but you've taken on too much, like all that community work, right? Your absence has left the house empty, and now I'm left handling everything. Naturally, I have complaints, my father-in-law fired back. Yes, my mother-in-law, who once relished being a stay-at-home mom, seemed to have overloaded herself with community responsibilities, like paperwork and event planning. Since she started neglecting her duties at home, I chimed in. Not wanting to burden the community association, my father-in-law has been struggling to juggle both his job and the tasks she left unfinished. He stopped fetching her because he got too wrapped up in community affairs, my husband explained. I'm exhausted by all this. It's becoming overwhelming. You need to choose between divorce or going to a facility, I asserted. This can't be right. I'm not the one at fault here. I won't go to a facility, and I don't want a divorce. It feels like everything might fall apart just by being around you, she protested. Seeing my father-in-law's exhaustion, my mother-in-law seemed to realize that it was all coming to an end and simply hung her head. You've been plotting to divorce us, but you should cherish your husband. He's a human being too, and he might just divorce you. Oh wait, he is divorcing you. I chuckled. This must have irritated her, but she remained silent. Perhaps she no longer had the energy to argue. And so my in-laws divorced, and Kyle officially became our son. As we proceeded with the divorce process, my mother-in-law returned to her marital home. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved secretly with the assistance of my father-in-law. As of now, she hasn't been able to locate us. With limited finances and little knowledge of the internet, it's doubtful that my mother-in-law could track us down out of state. However, since the property originally belonged to my father-in-law's family, she was swiftly evicted and divorced. Apparently, during the chaos of the divorce, she had pleaded with my father-in-law not to divorce her, even begging on her knees, claiming she didn't want to divorce at her age. As a homemaker, she had no savings. She attempted to claim a portion of the assets, but since there wasn't much to begin with, she has been struggling to make ends meet on her own. Despite needing assistance, both my father-in-law and husband have distanced themselves from her. She attempted to rely on a distant cousin she hadn't been in touch with for years, only to be turned down with the explanation, "We can't afford to support another adult. You need to fend for yourself." She should seek employment instead of relying on others, but she has yet to do so. However, I'll keep that observation to myself. In the meantime, my husband and I have welcomed a daughter, Camila, into our family, and Kyle is thriving in his new home with us. Camila grew up believing Kyle was her biological brother until she reached junior high school. Although we've since revealed the truth to her, their bond remains unshaken. Kyle plays various roles in Camila's life. Sometimes a brother, sometimes a parental figure, always watching out for her. When a neighborhood boy bullied Camila in elementary school, it was Kyle who rushed to her aid first, not us. If Camila ever decides to marry, I'm sure Kyle will be even more discerning of her potential suitors than my husband. Kyle, who initially struggled to express affection, now affectionately calls me Mom and has grown particularly close to my husband, spending weekends fishing together. Honestly, I can't help but feel a twinge of envy at their bond. Kyle is the cherished child left behind by my dear brother and his wife, and I'm committed to nurturing him as my own for the rest of my days. Now, let's take a look at what the boys have caught and whip up a delicious dinner with my daughter. I'll put my homemaking skills to the test and impress everyone. Just kidding. My name is Scarlett. I didn't think I'd tell my story, but here I am with a wild tale about my mother-in-law. I'll change names to protect my daughter and me. My story doesn't start with a crazy mother-in-law. I married my high school sweetheart, Daniel, when we were young. Daniel worked at his dad's company, so we were settled early. His mom, Jenny, really liked me, and with his brother, Devin, we were a happy family. Sadly, Daniel's dad died when we were in school. I had great years with Daniel and his family. But then, tragedy struck. One day, Jenny called me at work crying and said, "Scarlett, I have terrible news. Daniel was in a car crash. He didn't make it." I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. My whole world fell apart. I was 5 months pregnant with our baby, Lily. It was a really tough time for me and Daniel's family. Jenny, his mom, struggled a lot with the sadness. She became fixated on me and the baby. She thought Lily was Daniel coming back. She kept saying Lily was her baby and tried to control everything about my pregnancy. Dealing with Jenny was really hard. She threatened me, saying I couldn't move on or leave with my baby. Lily is always going to be with me and Devin. I have already set up a nursery in my house. She will come live with me when she is born. Devin will be your dad. He is Daniel's brother, after all. Jenny, I know you're having a hard time dealing with Daniel's death. Trust me, I'm just as bad, but you can't control me like this. This is my child and not yours. How dare you say this to me? Lily is my child. I will do everything in my power to keep her with me. Don't you dare think you can take her away. As the days passed, Jenny became extremely unhinged. We tried having multiple family discussions about her behavior. We said, "You need to stop being so obsessed with Lily. This is very unhealthy. Mom, we are worried about you. You're acting very strangely. I think you should consider therapy. The only one you should worry about is Scarlett. I know this girl. She'll run away with a new man once the child is born. She'll take away Lily and raise her with someone else. Devin, you can't let her do this. She is your daughter too. Mom, you're not making any sense. Daniel is the father of Lily. A new man will not replace him. I'm her uncle, and that's it. I will be there for her, and so will you. But ultimately, she is Scarlett's daughter." Jenny never listened to us. From hosting a baby shower for herself to demanding presents in the delivery room, Jenny did a lot of things. Just thinking about everything makes me have a panic attack. Devin did his best to control his mother. However, she never improved. The first serious trouble she made was just after I gave birth. She came to my room and asked to hold the baby. When I handed her my daughter, she ran for the door. Luckily, Devin was outside and stopped her with some nurses. From that moment, I knew Jenny couldn't be around my daughter. So I filed the case against her and let the cops deal with her. I was at first hesitant to get a restraining order. I wanted Lily to know her grandma, so I put some boundaries and hoped for the best. Jenny crossed all of them. She tried to take my daughter away several times. She also tried to convince and demand Devin and his girlfriend to adopt Lily. They refused because they are actually the same people. Jenny also didn't like the fact that I was seeing someone when Lily was 2. The last straw came when she tried to take her away from daycare without my permission. We found that she had planned to move to a different state. I immediately confronted her in front of Devin. "What is wrong with you, Jenny? How many times do I have to tell you that you can't see my child without my permission? Even the courts are with me on this. Still, you keep trying to take her away. Lily is my child, and she deserves to be with me. I'll keep her with me until Devin and his girlfriend get married." Then we will be a happy family. You can go have a new child with your boyfriend, Mom. You can't say or do things like this. We have already told you that Lily belongs to Scarlett alone. If she marries again, Lily will have a father figure. You don't have to worry about her. No. This is Daniel's daughter. I won't let anyone else raise her. She is mine and mine only. Scarlett is nothing but a woman. I will take my Lily away from this witch. By that point, I was completely done with Jenny. She never showed any improvement and instead got worse with time. Now I was actually getting worried for Lily's safety, so I decided to file a restraining order against Jenny. I knew that the restraining order would make her go mad. So before she could do any more damage, I shifted to a different country. I took a transfer and left without telling anyone the address. Only Devin knew my address because he was dependable. Jenny's behavior did have a lasting impression on me. I was always paranoid that she would take my child. The first year I moved was hell. Ultimately, I got therapy and decided to get better for my daughter. I was also developing a good connection with Carlos, who was a local resident. He was the reason I moved to the county. Carlos loved my daughter a lot, and they quickly formed a great bond. So I was sure that the relationship would work out. Jenny did find out about Carlos and tried to call me a cheating witch. I'm sure you have been cheating. I will never let you live in peace. I'll bring Lily back to me. Just wait. Jenny, I have a restraining order against you. I don't want to do this, but you have left me no choice. If you really love Lily, you should get therapy and get better for her. Don't tell me what to do, Scarlett. I don't need therapy. I only want my baby Lily back. One day, I will take her away from you. Then all you will do is cry. That one phone call was enough to send me into a spiral again. Carlos and my therapist had a tough time soothing my fears. My paranoia skyrocketed again. My world got dark. Somehow, I managed to deal with the situation and kept all these conversations as evidence. Thankfully, with her horrible behavior, I was able to get restraining orders renewed every time they expired. My solace was in the fact that Jenny never knew my new address. For the next few years, things went pretty well for me. I was slowly starting to cope with my mental health problems and tackled Jenny at the same time. I can't begin to tell you just how many phone numbers I had changed. When Lily was 6, I married Carlos and began my life with him. Devin and his girlfriend turned fiancé were invited, but Jenny was strictly not allowed. When Devin went home from my wedding, he did call me about Jenny. Scarlett, Mom found out about your wedding. I think one of your friends posted a picture. She saw it. She's not happy about this. What do I do? Devin, I'm tired of running away from Jenny. Even after years of filing a restraining order, she keeps harassing me. I'm exhausted. Stay strong, Scarlett. I'm doing my best to handle her. I think your marriage and my engagement have given her fresh ideas. I'm afraid she will do something stupid. Don't worry, Devin. I'll be on the watch out. I'm not that naive girl anymore. Jenny can plan as much as she wants. I won't let her take Lily, and I was adamant to protect my child. I quickly ordered high-security cameras and installed them all around the house. I also briefed Lily's school and babysitter about Jenny so that she can't cook up weird stories. Carlos was with me through it all. Years of therapy helped me deal with the situation better. While the old me would panic and become paranoid, the new me stayed calm and made plans. I was seriously praying to God that Jenny doesn't pull any stunts this time. I won't let her get away with her antics. Jenny's last crazy episode happened very soon. That morning, I was at my office pulling an overtime shift. Suddenly, I was surprised by a call from Devin. To be honest, I had no idea why he would call me at work. For some reason, my stomach was in knots as I picked up the phone. Devin sounded panicked and said, "Scarlett, you have to listen to me. This is serious. Mom just left me a message that she's bringing back Lily. I know you will never allow that. I'm afraid she will do something stupid." What the hell, Devin? I never gave her permission to take Lily. Hell, we have a restraining order against her. I think Mom is planning to kidnap Lily and bring her to my house. I've tried to change her mind, but I'm afraid she will run away with her if I push her too much. You need to stop her before she takes Lily. Thank you for telling me, Devin. I have no idea why Jenny still hasn't got the hint. Her behavior keeps escalating. She is adamant that Lily should stay with me. Mom is still obsessed with having me replace Daniel as her dad, but she's being very unreasonable. I know she needs help, but she refuses to go to therapy. I'm sorry to say this, Devin, but this time I don't think I can forgive her if she really tries to kidnap my daughter. I will be sending her to jail. Devin said that he understood my stance and why I would do this. He promised to be in touch in case something went wrong. Meanwhile, I started to plan a trap for Jenny. I knew that even if I left work right now, I wouldn't be able to reach home on time. So I picked up my phone and made a call. Then I simply sat back and waited for Jenny to show up. I had a very small hope in my heart that Jenny wouldn't be this crazy. Well, it turns out she is truly crazy. My house has security cameras covering the entire place. I was able to watch everything while driving back home with a friend. As I watched Lily play on the lawn, I spotted Jenny making an entrance. Guys, Jenny actually tried to take my daughter. I was absolutely enraged by her behavior. Even after what happened, she wanted to ignore the court and take my child. She did it in the afternoon, knowing that I wouldn't be home. However, she didn't know one thing about my life. Carlos and I had gotten married 6 months ago, and just inside the house, Lily's new stepfather was watching everything. As soon as Jenny snatched up Lily, she cried out for Carlos, and immediately he came and blocked the front door. Through the security camera, I could see that Jenny went completely white as a ghost. Then her jaw dropped. My daughter fought off her arms and ran straight to Carlos. There was one thing she didn't know about the new man in my life. Carlos was a police officer. To be precise, he was the sheriff of our county. Jenny just took one look at him, and her jaw dropped, specifically because he was still in his police uniform. He was just back from work and spending time with my daughter before I came home. The call I made from the office was to Carlos. He is the one who picked up my daughter from school and stayed home till I came back. Jenny stupidly thought that I would leave my daughter unsupervised. Instead, she found a living and breathing cop stationed at my house. I heard them say, "What are you doing here, Jenny? I know you are Scarlett's mother-in-law. I'm interested to know what brings you here." "I'm here for my grandbaby. It's time she spends time with me." "Who the hell are you, and where is my grandbaby?" "Well, first of all, you are not supposed to be in this house, and I also know that you don't have any visitation rights with Scarlett's daughter. I would suggest you tell me your intentions since there are cameras in the house." "Who the hell are you? Why are you in this house around my granddaughter? You're not supposed to be here." "I am not an unknown man. I'm her stepfather, and I have full rights to be here. You are not supposed to be here since you have trespassed into my house, tried to kidnap Lily, and violated restraining orders. I have already called my mates to come and arrest you." No, you cannot arrest me. I'm not doing something wrong. My granddaughter belongs to me and Dean. I won't let Scarlett let a stranger raise Daniel's daughter. Only Devin is fit to be her dad. Listen to me, Jenny. You need to step away from this house right now. The cops will come and arrest you if I don't do it myself. Jenny kept arguing with Carlos while I hurried home to them. My friend from work drove me to my house. While I was watching the confrontation, Carlos kept warning Jenny that she would face some serious charges if she didn't leave. Well, Jenny decided to be a martyr and continued to try and argue with him. As soon as I reached the house, Jenny started to shout at me. She said, "You witch, you intentionally married a cop so that you can take away my granddaughter. This is all you're planning. I always knew you were a total witch." "Calm down, Jenny. You keep forgetting the fact that my cop husband is right in this house. Believe it or not, he will arrest you if you keep harassing us. I won't go down so easily. I'll tell everyone that you were cheating with Carlos before Daniel died. I will ruin your reputation and take Lily." "Carlos, you can add harassment and slander to Jenny's list of offenses now. Looks like she won't stop." Just at that moment, the rest of the cops arrived. They came inside the house and spoke to Carlos about the situation. When Carlos and I gave our statements, Jenny threw another fit. She started to scream and cry about how unfair and selfish we were being. She said, "You are a vile woman, Scarlett. You want to keep me away from Lily. You have no respect for Daniel's memories. Why can't you just give Devin my granddaughter? He's the only one who should be her dad. Now, you have some serious audacity coming to my house and trying to take my daughter away. What makes you think I will ever allow you near her again? She is my granddaughter. I have the right to decide who raises her. The courts are wrong. I deserve to be with Lily." Jenny took that opportunity to attack me again. Yes, this crazy lady tried to assault me in front of my cop husband and friends. She was immediately restrained, and Carlos looked extremely pissed off. He spoke with his colleagues, and in a few seconds, Jenny was taken away in cuffs. She did try to fight those officers, and that added another offense to her already extensive criminal record. She was taken away, but not before she could throw some insanely inappropriate comments towards me and my husband. After everything happened, I took some time off work to be with my daughter. She was still traumatized by everything, especially by the way Jenny tried to grab her and run. Even I am exhausted from dealing with Jenny and had a hard time balancing everything. Carlos has been a huge support to both me and Lily. Lily has even started to call him Dad. She does know about Daniel, but she also sees Carlos as a father. I'm so happy that my little girl is finally starting to have a normal life. Devin and I talked in detail about what went down. He did apologize for his mother's behavior multiple times. I assured him that none of this is his fault and he shouldn't take Jenny's blame. He was a great uncle to Lily and tried to replace Daniel. Devin continues to visit us every week to spend time with Lily and my family. He has since uninvited Jenny from his wedding and is planning to go no contact with her. Speaking of Jenny, she will be spending time in jail by now. She has managed to work towards an impressive list of charges that keeps getting worse. From what Carlos has told me, she will likely face fines along with a short prison sentence. She's tried her best to turn the judge against us, but even the lawyer knows she's a lost cause. We're still waiting for the final hearing, so I can't share all the details of the court proceedings. However, it looks like me, Carlos, and Lily will finally have some peace away from my